What turns a lonely, bullied boy into one of the most powerful people on the planet? When you hear the name Elon Musk, you probably think of Tesla, SpaceX, and a wild dream of colonizing Mars. But long before he became one of the most recognizable figures in the world, he was just a boy from Pretoria, South Africa. A boy who walked the halls of his school not with a carefree attitude, but with a constant knot of fear in his stomach. This isn't just a story about a billionaire's success. This is a story about survival. Imagine being shoved down a flight of concrete stairs by bullies and beaten so badly you end up in the hospital, unrecognizable to your own family. This wasn't a scene from a movie. This was the reality for young Elon Musk. And when he looked for comfort, he found none. This is the motivating story of how a quiet, tormented boy who was pushed to his absolute limits used that pain to try and build a different future for us all. Elon Musk was born on June 28, 1971, in Pretoria, South Africa. His mother, May, was a Canadian model and dietitian, and his father, Errol, was a South African electromechanical engineer. From the very beginning, it was clear Elon was different. He wasn't interested in sports or playing outside with the neighborhood kids. Instead, he lived inside his own head, in a world built from the pages of books. He was a quiet, introverted bookworm who would read for hours. His family would go shopping, get distracted, and realize Elon was missing. They'd almost always find him in the nearest bookstore, sitting on the floor, completely lost in another world. He devoured science fiction and fantasy, tales of distant galaxies, heroic adventures, and futuristic technology. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were blueprints. They planted seeds in his young mind about what the future could be. While other kids played with toys, Elon was thinking about rockets and space. He often seemed to drift away, so lost in thought that his parents worried he might be deaf. But he wasn't deaf. He was just listening to the constant explosion of ideas in his own mind. This inner world was his sanctuary, but it made him an outsider in the real world. His introverted nature and his habit of correcting people didn't win him many friends. As the youngest and smallest kid in his class, he was an easy target. The culture in Pretoria could be harsh, and for a boy who didn't fit in, school was a daily battleground. He later admitted, "I hated going to school as a child. It was agonizing." This feeling of being an outcast was a defining part of his early years. When Elon was around 9, his parents divorced, a painful event that deepened his sense of isolation. His mother moved away with his sister, while Elon and his brother, Kimball, made a fateful decision. They chose to live with their father. Elon would later call this a mistake. The relationship with his father was difficult, adding another layer of hardship to his young life. Elon has described his childhood as anything but happy, calling it misery. He felt alone at home and alone at school, a small boy in a world that seemed both hostile and indifferent. He was trapped, but even then, in the quiet corners of his mind, he was plotting his escape. The challenges of Elon's young life weren't just emotional, they were brutally physical. The bullying he faced at school was relentless and violent. He said in an interview that he was in real, hardcore street fights and was badly beaten in a few of them. As a bookish kid, more interested in computers than sports, he was a constant target for gangs of boys who would hunt him down. One incident stands out for its sheer brutality. At Bryanston High School, a group of boys attacked him. They pushed him down a flight of concrete stairs, and when he landed at the bottom, they pounced, kicking him and smashing his head against the ground. The beating was so severe that he was hospitalized. The trauma was long-lasting. He needed surgeries for years afterward to fix the damage to his nose. The physical pain was immense, but the emotional pain was arguably worse. He felt completely alone. In a heartbreaking twist, his own father sometimes sided with the bullies, making Elon feel worthless. This meant there was no safe harbor, no place to retreat from the world's cruelty. He was on his own. But in the face of such crushing adversity, character is often forged. Instead of breaking, Elon found a different path. He found refuge not in people, but in logic and technology. Around age 10, he was introduced to computers. It was a revelation. Here was a world that made sense, a world governed by rules and code, a world he could control. He dove into it with the same intensity he applied to his reading, teaching himself to program from manuals. By the age of 12, this quiet, bullied boy did something extraordinary. He created his own video game, a space shooter called Blaster, where you had to destroy an alien freighter carrying deadly weapons. It was a simple game, but it was his creation. He sold the code to a computer magazine for about $500. It was his first taste of entrepreneurship, the first proof that the ideas in his head had real value. He had turned his escape into an achievement. As he got older, he also grew bigger. A growth spurt meant he was no longer the smallest kid. He started learning karate, judo, and wrestling. He learned a crucial lesson about survival. If you fight back, even if you lose, the bullies might leave you alone. He realized that confronting his tormentors was the only way to make them stop. This was a turning point. He wasn't just a victim anymore. He was a survivor learning to stand up for himself. The pain of his childhood didn't break him. It toughened him up and gave him a high tolerance for risk and a relentless drive to succeed. As a teenager, Elon realized his future wasn't in South Africa. At the time, the country was under the grip of apartheid, and mandatory military service was required to uphold it, something he refused to do. But his desire to leave was about more than that. He saw North America, especially the United States, as the land of opportunity, the place where his big dreams could become reality. He figured it would be easier to get to the US from Canada. His father, however, didn't share his vision and predicted he'd fail and come crawling back. At 17, with a Canadian passport from his mother, Elon left. He arrived in Canada in 1989 with little money and few connections. This was his point of no return. He was on his own, and the early days were tough. He took a series of hard, low-paying jobs to get by, working on a farm and cleaning out the boiler room of a lumber mill. It was a harsh, humbling experience, but it was also liberating. He had escaped his past and was now in control of his own destiny. His hard work paid off. In 1990, he enrolled at Queen's University in Ontario. 2 years later, he got the transfer he'd been waiting for, to the University of Pennsylvania. He pushed himself even harder, earning 2 bachelor's degrees, one in physics and one in economics from the Wharton School. He was finally where he had dreamed of being. After graduating, he briefly moved to California for a PhD in applied physics at Stanford University. He was there for only 2 days. The internet boom was happening, and he saw an opportunity he couldn't ignore. He dropped out, a risky move that showed his willingness to bet on himself. He and his brother Kimball started their first company, Zip2, an online city guide. They worked day and night, and Elon famously slept on a couch in the office because he couldn't afford an apartment. This was the start of his journey as an entrepreneur, a journey that would be filled with incredible highs and devastating lows. Before we get to the conclusion, take a moment to think about the challenges you faced in your own life. How did they shape you? If you find this story of resilience inspiring, please hit the like button and subscribe for more motivational stories told in simple English. Let us know in the comments which part of Elon's early life resonated with you the most. The lessons from his brutal childhood in South Africa became the foundation of Elon Musk's success. The isolation forced him to become self-reliant. The bullying taught him how to endure pain and fight back. The difficult relationship with his father fueled a deep desire to prove himself. Every hardship was a lesson in disguise, an elixir of resilience he brought into the business world. His first major success came in 1999 when Zip2 was sold to Compaq for over $300 million. At just 27, Elon received $22 million and became a millionaire. For most people, that would be the happy ending, but for Elon, it was just the beginning. He didn't see the money as a prize. He saw it as fuel for even bigger ideas. He immediately reinvested his earnings into his next venture, an online financial services company called X.com, which eventually merged with another to become PayPal. In 2002, when eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion, Elon walked away with a personal fortune of around $180 million. He was now incredibly wealthy, but again, the money wasn't the goal. The goal was the mission. He looked at his fortune and saw a chance to tackle the biggest problems facing humanity, the same grand ideas that had filled his head as a boy. He took 2 of the biggest risks of his life. He invested $100 million to create SpaceX, with the audacious goal of making humanity a multi-planetary species. And he invested over $70 million into a small electric car company called Tesla, aiming to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. People thought he was crazy. They laughed at him. His first 3 rocket launches with SpaceX failed, exploding before reaching orbit. Tesla was bleeding money and plagued with production problems. By 2008, during the Great Recession, both companies were on the brink of bankruptcy. He was under immense stress and also going through a divorce. He described it as the hardest time of his life. He had to choose, save one company or risk losing both. He refused to choose. He poured every last cent he had into keeping both dreams alive, even borrowing money for rent. It was a gamble that paid off. At the last possible moment, SpaceX successfully launched its 4th rocket, securing a crucial contract from NASA. Tesla began to turn things around, eventually becoming the most valuable car company in the world. The boy who was beaten and broken had returned, not just with wealth, but with the power to change the future. The story of Elon Musk's early life isn't just a biography, it's a moral tale about the incredible power of the human spirit. It teaches us a few powerful lessons. First, never give up, even when life is hard. Elon faced loneliness, family problems, and intense bullying, but he refused to let those things define him. His journey shows that our beginnings don't have to determine our endings. Second, be curious and never stop learning. His love for reading and his passion for self-learning gave him knowledge that no school could. He taught himself to program at a young age and used that skill to create something of value. This relentless pursuit of knowledge is a superpower available to all of us. Third, use your challenges as fuel. Instead of letting his difficult childhood defeat him, Elon turned adversity into the driving force behind his ambitions. The pain made him tougher, the loneliness made him more independent, and the lack of support made him more determined to create a better world on his own terms. He has even said he worries his own kids don't face enough adversity. And finally, dream big and take action. From a young boy reading sci-fi to a man building rockets, Elon's life shows the power of a bold vision combined with relentless work. His story teaches us that no matter where you start or what obstacles you face, you have the power to achieve extraordinary things if you dare to dream and are willing to work tirelessly to make those dreams a reality. The boy who felt utterly alone grew up to be a man who wants to ensure humanity's survival across the stars. His journey reminds us that sometimes the deepest wounds can lead to the greatest strengths, and that inside every challenge lies an opportunity for greatness.